Australian nature. I mean, how could you not? There's nothing like it anywhere else in the world.
Our continent is home to more than 1 million species of plants and animals.
But it is under an increasing amount of pressure.
We're in a race against time to protect our unique flora and fauna. So what's the solution? Right now, there's a revolution taking place, one where emerging technology is being used to safeguard our wildlife in bold new ways. From revealing surprising behaviours in our rare native bats.
They're the smallest agricultural workers in Australia.
And they work every night.
To providing us with a new weapon in the fight against the illegal animal trade.
A crocodile.
Yes. As wildlife smuggling evolves, this technology is also evolving with it at the front line.
And helping prevent one of our most endangered animals, the mountain pygmy possum, from disappearing forever.
This is insane. These are literally like the library shelves of DNA, aren't they?
So, I'll be travelling across Australia to see how technology is allowing scientists to work smarter and faster in the race to protect our wildlife. The first stop on my journey is the Scotia Wildlife Sanctuary, 150 kilometres south of Broken Hill in remote New South Wales. It contains one of Australia's largest predator-free areas. At 8,000 hectares in size, it's the equivalent of nearly 15,000 football fields. It's a safe haven for some of our most vulnerable mammals, like nail-tail wallabies and this threatened species, the bilby. With fewer than 10,000 left, every single individual counts.
If you've ever been to the Mallee Scrub, you know that it's a pretty harsh environment. Lots of big skies, lots of wind and heat. But inside this sanctuary, there are hundreds of threatened mammals. In the daytime, you can't see any sign of them. It's as if they're not here. But at night, they'll feel safe enough to come out.
And that gives us a chance to count them.
What have we come out to do tonight?
We're coming out so we can spotlight bilbies and wallabies to get population estimates for how many are in the fenced area.
Through regular population surveys, the team can keep a close eye on all 5 threatened species inside the predator-free area. But spotting small, shy marsupials isn't easy.
So what am I looking for?
With a bilby, you normally see the little white tail running off in the distance, or you'll see a bit of eye shine, but if there's bushes in the way, you might not spot an animal.
Come on, bilbies. This is a good example, right, of not being able to see beyond the bushes, isn't it?
Yeah. It's pretty thick, and so it's harder to pick them up.
Oh, I saw an eye shine over there behind. I'm sure I did. Look, look.
That's one.
Look, there's a bilby.
Good spot.
Oh, look at that, there's a little tail. Oh my goodness, a bilby spotting. Maybe I've got a future
Yeah.
in this line of work.
Spotlighting is a tried and tested way of counting the inhabitants here. But it can take a team of 6 people 6 nights to cover the park.
Oh, there's one.
Oh, it's tiny. Nicely spotted. All right, so that's 2 then.
Yeah.
I can see the challenge facing the team. But Tali is hoping that some clever technology will transform her population surveys. Next day, we head out to a ridgeline on the property to test fly the newest piece of aerial surveillance equipment in Australia.
G'day.
How are we going today?
Okay.
Well done, Tally.
Oh, look at that baby. What is this?
Basically, it's an unmanned aerial vehicle with the latest thermal camera in Australia at the moment, which is hot off the press. There's none other in civilian hands in Australia.
The heat-sensing camera integrated into this drone can see across a larger area in greater detail than ever before. It should make spotting and identifying the wildlife here much easier. Well, it looks spectacular and the sun's going down, so it's a perfect time to start getting this up in the air, I reckon. I'm going to give you some space because it looks like it could take an arm
Yes,
off.
we need 30 metres away from the drone at all times.
All right, all right. Everything we encounter in our day-to-day lives gives off thermal energy, even ice. Thermal cameras detect this in the form of infrared radiation.
Okay, so here's us. So if someone wants to give the camera away for us, there we go, look at that.
This heat energy is translated on the screen in different colours. Hotter objects, like us, appear red and yellow. Colder objects, like the ground, appear purple and black.
And so what are we looking out for here?
Basically, we're just checking a water source point and just pretty much anything that's going to come in for a drink. So you can see there's a few hot spots on the ground, like diggings. They're storing the heat from the sun.
How much ground do you reckon you could cover with the drone?
Well, this drone has the capability to travel up to 100 kilometres an hour. So you can cover quite a lot of ground here in a short amount of time. Ooh, what have we got there?
Ooh.
That's quite a long neck with a solid head. At the moment, that animal's actually behind a tree. So now I'll move out from behind the tree and we'll get the animal clearly in the camera.
Ah, that makes it stand out.
What would you think that is, Tali?
I'd say a wallaby.
That was definitely a wallaby-like gait, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So how far away is that animal?
164 metres.
And that's something that we'd just never pick up if we had the spotlights out, would we?
Exactly.
But while the drone can see in the dark, it can't yet identify the animals it comes across.
You're still going to need an element of knowledge about what you're actually looking at, right?
Exactly.
At this stage anyway. That seems like a way more efficient way of spotting an animal instead of pointing a torch into the darkness.
Yeah, it took us just minutes of flight time and we located a nail-tail wallaby. To be able to bring that to life on this screen is a great result.
Thermal drones like this could help monitor how population numbers fluctuate, both faster and more accurately. But for now, it still needs a human to decode its results. The rapid evolution of smart technology now means it can be used to capture images and identify all sorts of native animals. It could even help to discover new species. Here in Namadgi National Park near Canberra, scientists are on the hunt for some of the 250,000 species of insects native to Australia. They're a key part of the ecosystem. And if they were to disappear, the consequences for our wildlife, agriculture, and even life itself would be dire.
I love this country air.
Today I'm joining a team of scientists from the CSIRO who study the bugs here on Ngunnawal land.
What can I carry?
It's vital that we catalogue insects and better understand the role they play in our ecosystem. Because across the globe, they're declining at an alarming rate.
What would we miss out on if we didn't have insects?
A huge percentage of the food that you eat is pollinated by an insect. We wouldn't have chocolate if it wasn't for flies, because the flies pollinate the cacao plant.
See, that's a reason to give a fly a hug, right, today?
A week ago, entomologist Juanita Rodriguez and the team set an insect trap at one of their research sites in the park. I'm intrigued to see what they might have caught.
So they fly into our little black net, come up towards the light like they do on your veranda, and then they fall in there, and it's instantaneous death, I imagine, into that much alcohol.
Yeah.
What an ingenious little contraption. So shall we have a look and see what you've got?
Yes, let's take a look.
Ooh, okay. Flies, wasps.
Lots of moths.
Ooh, there's something really bright orange. So we're up here looking for something specific today?
Yes. We collected a new species of spider wasp in this same forest, but that was before the fires came through.
Right.
It's called Epipompilus namagi.
Just one specimen of this rare spider wasp has ever been found. But it may already be extinct, because just over a year ago, 80% of namagi was destroyed by bushfire.
This is the first time that we're looking for this species after the bushfires. We haven't found it so far.
Because after the bushfire, we're not sure if it's survived.
Yeah, exactly.
The disappearance of this single species might be a loss for nature, but it's potentially more than that. Spider wasps have a venom that could be useful for treating Alzheimer's disease and epilepsy.
Tea strainer.
I'll
get in here out of the way.
It's very high tech.
So can we see if there's something that looks suspiciously like a wasp? What would I be looking for?
It's around this
kind of
size, and then the legs are reddish, and the forelegs are kind of enlarged, kind of like muscly. Yeah.
Oh, is that a pompilid?
That's a pompilid. That's a spider wasp. It's not the one we're looking for, though.
There's no sign of it, but we have caught dozens of other specimens.
It's just like an information explosion though, isn't it?
It's a lot. Like, we won't be able to describe all species in our lifetime, so we need as much help as we can get.
It's a tiny vial, but it's chock-a-block full of minuscule insects. And the scientists are saying that there's at least one and probably more new species contained within it.
To accurately identify the insects we've discovered, we need to take a closer look. So we've brought the samples to the Australian National Insect Collection in Canberra.
So we have 22,000 drawers in this building, and each drawer is full of insects.
It's home to a staggering 12 million specimens.
Ones.
Jeepers creepers, look at them. Wow.
Showing me around is entomologist Brian Lessard, otherwise known as Bri the Fly Guy.
They're bigger than some of our bats.
They definitely are.
The collection contains some incredible treasures.
This one I'm going to show you has a little bit of history. It's this little one here,
Oh, right up here.
right there.
Yep. It says KG's sound, so probably King George's sound, C. Darwin.
Charles Darwin,
The Charles Darwin.
the founder of the theory of evolution.
He collected that tiny specimen.
He held that specimen in his hands and glued it to that mount card.
Wow.
Thousands of specimens here are yet to be identified, and that's a process that can take years.
Each year, we're growing the collection by 100,000 specimens. I, of course, don't have the time to actually sit down and describe them all. So it's so important that we use new technology to actually ramp up these species descriptions.
So, Brian and the team are turning to artificial intelligence, or AI, to help fix this growing problem.
So essentially AI is going to be the high-tech version of Bri the Fly Guy.
Super high tech. And we'll probably do it a lot quicker than I can, definitely.
To show me how it works, we're headed to the digitisation lab, where the team are studying the sample we collected in Namagi National Park.
Specimens in and image them.
The first step is to take incredibly detailed images of the insects we caught.
What we do is we mount the specimen under the camera.
Oh wow, you can see it appear on your screen straight away.
We take a slice of each of the focal points and stitch them all together into one stunning high-resolution image of that specimen.
Right, and see in astounding detail all the little fluffy bits that come out in between sections of the exoskeleton, and it's just incredible. It's at a much higher magnification than you can achieve in the field.
Definitely. And the next step is feeding these images into an AI cloud to be able to rapidly detect these species automatically.
By teaching the AI what different parts of an insect look like, it develops the ability to classify species on its own.
We're teaching the machine what each part of the insect looks like. For example, I take this specimen and label it, kind of like drawing around it with a pencil, and I tell the computer, this is an antenna.
So that it can look at another image and say, ooh, I think that's an antenna.
Yes, exactly.
You're teaching it to effectively be a librarian and classify different specimens into their correct place in your library of insects.
That's right. Letting the computer label the image, so something that would take us days, the computer would do automatically for us.
It's hoped that once fully trained, this system could categorise millions of insect images at superhuman speeds and potentially reveal new species already within the collection.
And the quicker we get to know what we have, the easier it's going to be to protect it and to understand how our ecosystem actually functions.
Exactly.
Charles Darwin is such a massive figure in our scientific history. It's crazy to think that he actually touched this little black speck of an insect. But its value lies in the fact that it's part of this collection, a collection which tells us the story of Australia's biodiversity. We're only at chapter 1 with that story at the moment, but maybe with new technology, we might be able to advance that story several chapters in one stride. And if Charles Darwin could see that, it would blow his mind.
Here on Kamilaroi country near Narrabri, New South Wales, technology is not only doing things faster, it's also doing things smarter. This is the University of Sydney's DigiFarm. Researchers here are investigating environmentally friendly farming methods and have made a surprising discovery that involves not machinery, but bats.
Farms like this one make up more than 50% of the entire territory of Australia. By default, that means that farmers are the custodians of so much of our native wildlife. Up till now, that relationship status has been complicated. But could technology actually be the thing that changes it to something more like symbiotic?
I'm joining ecologist Aaron Greenville, who is using the latest innovations in acoustic technology to uncover the nocturnal activity of bats on the property.
So what am I looking out for in terms of your DigiFarm equipment?
We're looking out for a star picnic with 3 different devices on it.
Aaron has placed acoustic recorders in a variety of habitats across the farm, from remnant bush to open fields.
Here we go. I've got one. So what's the go? You've got 1 visual recorder and 2 audio recorders.
This one is our acoustic recorder. It's only targeting the frequency range in which bats call.
So way above, in general, way above what humans can normally hear.
That's right, we'll be able to capture the bats flying past, doing their echolocation above the trees.
Well, I hope that we get some bat calls tonight.
Once activated, the recorder captures the time and location of every single echolocation, click or trill within its range. And it's this data that can reveal their secret nighttime behaviour.
I can hear all the galahs going to sleep. But as the world as we know it goes to sleep, another world comes to life.
While our recorders capture the sounds of the forest, I'm meeting a member of the team who can help me see the bats up close. With more than 70 species in Australia, zoologist Brad Law is trying to discover which of them live on the farm.
I think maybe I've caught about 20,000 bats.
20,000 bats.
20,000.
Seems like there's lots of good spots to hide for a bat around here.
Brad has set several traps amongst the natural corridors of the forest.
They do like to get into those corners and hide
okay.
themselves.
We've got one.
Have you got one?
Yeah,
I can
we've
see
got
it.
one.
Fantastic.
A little brown blob with tiny little feet.
Based on its size and the colour, I'd say it's a little forest bat, which is one of our smallest bats, and in fact one of the smallest mammals in Australia.
Wow, the texture of its wings are incredible.
That wing membrane is super, super thin. It's like a fraction of a millimetre thin, and it's elastic.
And the tiniest of eyes.
Which is why they need to echolocate to be able to hunt insects.
How many insects do you reckon it could pack away in a night?
It could probably eat close to its body mass in a night. So that's, if you think about us eating a 70 or 80 kilo steak, they eat a lot of insect pests.
What an absolute beauty.
Change his mind.
Oh!
There he goes.
He was ready.
Microbats are some of my favourite animals, so I'm thrilled to discover that we've caught another one.
Okay, look at this guy.
He's huge.
That's a threatened species.
No way.
And that's the southeast long-eared bat. That's exciting to get that bat at this site.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. How many threatened species are on this site?
That's 5 species now, which is pretty amazing for a farm.
With the sun beginning to rise, it's time to check on the acoustic recorders and hopefully reveal what the bats have been up to overnight.
They might be asleep now, but it doesn't mean we can't spy on their activities. Let's see what we recorded last night.
Let's have a look. In total, we've probably got around 3,000 files.
That is 3,000 times that microphone has been triggered by a bat zooming past, a beetle making a call, or a cricket.
That's right.
The team have developed special software that can instantly process these acoustic files, separating the bat calls from all the others.
So there's some echolocation marks, tick, 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 as it's flown past the detector.
That's right. This is a bat that's been flying around the remnant woodland up here.
By looking at where on the farm the microbat calls were recorded, Aaron's discovered some unexpected predatory behaviour.
You can look at our ultrasonic calls and you can pick up feeding buzzers out in the middle of these fields. We actually found that most of the species of bats coming out of these forests and around here are providing this amazing pest service down in our agricultural fields.
So they're spending the whole night going around the farm cleaning up the insects.
Yes, each species will have a slightly different diet, slightly different habitat preference, and they're all providing different ecological services in different ways.
They're the smallest agricultural workers in Australia.
And they work every night.
Yeah. So you can create this really holistic picture of bat and agriculture activity.
That's right. Eating pest insects, less pesticides, that's going to save you money. So it's a win-win.
Combining acoustics and AI has advanced our ability to detect species we can't usually see and hear. I can only imagine what else might be revealed if this tech could be installed on farms across the country.
Here at the farm, I've seen how AI can be used to help us understand the landscape. It paints a picture of a nighttime city that exists here that you would never guess, and it's full of pest controllers. It's a relationship between the bats and agriculture that we never really knew existed. And that makes me think, how far can we push AI?
I'm headed to the coast of Lutruwita, Tasmania, to see how a combination of AI and robotics is opening up new worlds. taking scientists where they can't always go themselves. Deep into Australia's vast marine environment. While we're known for our coral reefs, a third of Australia's coastline is home to kelp forests, crucial habitat for marine creatures. But they're under serious threat. 95% of the giant kelp forests around the east coast of Tasmania have been wiped out due to rising sea temperatures.
Permission to come aboard?
Granted, absolutely.
Marine scientist Neville Barrett has been monitoring this coastline for decades.
This area did used to be covered in giant kelp forests all along here, and they're not there anymore. We've had warming in this part of the world over the last, well, nearly 40 years now, so the east coast of Tassie's nearly 2 degrees warmer than it was back then.
That seemingly small increase has been significant for giant kelp, which thrives in cold, nutrient-rich water.
What sort of role does it play in the environment?
It provides a lot of the food that feeds the entire reef system around it. The biodiversity is huge. As things warm up, we will lose a lot of these species.
What are the challenges of actually monitoring this environment?
A lot of these reefs are too deep. We simply can't dive on them, and there are no really easy ways of collecting information for them.
Enter Nimbus. Developed by Stephen Williams and his team at the University of Sydney, it's a smart, autonomous underwater vehicle, an AUV. It carries out fieldwork independent of the scientists on the boat.
We can operate this particular vehicle at 300 or 400 meters of water depth, which is well beyond scuba depths. And we can use that to build 3D models of the seafloor with sub-millimeter resolutions.
How many sensors are there actually inside this unit?
There's a pair of cameras in the middle of the vehicle. This is an acoustic positioning system. We've got depth, orientation, a whole suite of instruments that can do things that your dive team simply can't do.
All right, well, let's get it in the water then.
Sounds great. It's off.
It's off. So that's that propeller spinning at the back.
Yeah, so it's bringing in a little bit of air just because it's on the surface.
It's definitely giving me Bond villain vibes.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
So right now it's transiting over to the actual site where we program it to dive. Then it'll dive down 2 meters off the seafloor. That's where we get good imaging.
As Nimbus autonomously travels along the seafloor, it captures every feature of the hidden world in incredible detail. Then the images are stitched together to create a comprehensive, kilometre-long 3D map. It's hoped that entire fleets of AUVs like Nimbus might one day be used to map and monitor our planet's marine forests, helping scientists protect what's left. But is there any way to restore these environments to what they once were? At the Institute of Marine and Antarctic Studies in Hobart, Kane Leighton is attempting to do just that.
What exactly are these things? I mean, it looks like a really bad cup of tea.
Yeah, they don't really look like much, but these are baby giant kelp, hundreds of thousands of baby kelp. And what we're attempting to do is restore these amazing underwater forests that unfortunately in Tasmania are in decline due to climate change.
This is literally potential forests, right?
Yeah, you could grow hectares and hectares of forests using just these flasks alone.
So what are you trying to do in the lab exactly?
We're looking amongst the remnant populations of giant kelp for individuals that are more tolerant of warm water. The same way some humans are taller or shorter than others, some giant kelp just naturally is more tolerant of warm water, and they're the super kelp. Each of the flasks is the genetic material from a single individual kelp. And that's really important because that allows us to crossbreed them. I mean, it's just the selective breeding that we've been doing for thousands of years with, you know, agricultural crops, bananas and whatever. This is just a little bit wetter and a little bit saltier and...
So are you actually
reseeding kelp at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. We've got 3 trial patches. We did some planting last year in spring.
What sort of success have you had so far?
Despite the warm summer temperatures, they actually look really great. They've got really nice, healthy colour, which is really important for a kelp. And they're not bleached like a lot of the other kelp in the local area are.
So the first signs are really positive.
That's right. And, you know, they're now through that danger zone of being a little fragile kelp in the big wide ocean. And so we're really optimistic that they're going to keep growing this year, obviously, because they've got now basically 12 months until the next summer. So they've got a really good period of growth ahead of them with the water temperatures starting to drop.
These specimens could one day restore Tasmania's giant kelp forests.
There's not many labs in the world that are doing this type of stuff either. So it's nice to be part of something that's so exciting and so innovative.
So far, I've seen how technology is providing new ways for us to identify and monitor our unique flora and fauna, allowing us to intervene before they disappear entirely. But is there a way for us to be more proactive and anticipate the next big threat? One of the biggest pressures facing our ecosystems and communities is the increasing intensity of bushfires. Now, a team in South Australia has developed a new method of pinpointing the areas that are most at risk before they go up in smoke. To see it in action, I need to go up in one of these.
Hello.
Hello. Come in.
Wow. I've taken to the skies above Adelaide to take images of the forest that are going to reveal it in ways you never have seen before. This tiny cutting-edge plane is loaded with sensors and cameras and lasers. So from all the way up here, we can map the forests all the way down there.
Atmospheric scientist Jorg Hacker is using remote sensing technology called LiDAR to measure the bush hundreds of metres below us. As we fly over, laser beams fire from the plane towards the ground.
In our case, about 400,000 very short laser pulses per second.
And so it's going tuk, 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 up and down between the plane as we fly.
Yes.
Each laser pulse bounces off the landscape below and returns to a sensor that calculates the exact distance from the plane.
It's sort of like a bat user's echolocation. You're throwing out lots of laser beams and recording the echoes of the laser beams as they come back.
Yes, and you can composite that together and get a 3D image of the ground.
That is astonishing.
By repeating our flight path at different heights, we're able to collect more and more laser data points. And the more data we collect, the more detailed our 3D map becomes.
So how much detail, say, could you pick out on a tree that we're going past?
In the best case, you can see individual leaves.
Wow.
It blows your mind when you think about it.
The ability of the LiDAR to penetrate through the top layer of canopy and see the trees beneath is really what makes this stand apart from other survey techniques.
Using this method allows scientists to survey an area in a fraction of the time that it would take a ground crew, and with unprecedented accuracy.
Oh, what? That was smoother than I've been on commercial flights. That was great. Right, I'm excited to see what this laser stuff turns into.
Yeah. So,
ta-da!
Here is Pingelly's scrub.
It looks just like what we flew over.
Well, I hope so. And so
you
there it is.
can see individual branches on the tree.
Yeah, so you can measure every individual tree. You can measure the density of the leaves.
And what's more, you can feel like you're in that movie Avatar.
You can do that.
By combining these images with data from the other sensors on the plane, JORG can reveal a comprehensive picture of the forest.
And this is with the overlay from that hyperspectral scanner that we were using. So in this case, this is the health of the tree. I mean, this is just one example. One can obviously have hundreds of different ways of looking at the health of the trees, whether it was burned or the flammability or the density of the leaves. You can see probably things that people don't normally see.
The system can measure a whole range of plant parameters, including flammability to get measurements of fuel loads, helping communities identify fire hazards.
I can imagine how seeing how much flammable material there might be in any landscape could be so useful for land managers in Australia.
Exactly. You can put your finger at this tree is probably the most dangerous one. You can make predictions of how the fire will move or may move under certain circumstances.
They say knowledge is power, but this amount of data surely gives us power to make good environmental decisions.
Yeah. We are at a stage where we are getting there, there's no question.
LiDAR mapping of this complexity is still relatively new, but it gives us a glimmer of what might be possible in the very near future.
Well, I'm excited to see where the scientists take this and the ecologists.
Yeah.
Collecting data like this could be a game changer for communities in Australia, because the more data we have about nature, the better prepared we can be for whatever nature might throw at us, like bushfires. And that is going to be ever more important as the climate continues to change.
But it's not just bushfires that are a threat to our native animals. The illegal wildlife trade is worth more than $30 billion globally. Australian shingleback lizards are highly prized by collectors. A pair of them can cost up to $20,000 on the black market. So traffickers go to extreme lengths to smuggle them out of the country. Trying to catch them is a constant battle. One promising solution is housed here at Australia Post's International Gateway facility.
Oh, there's so many conveyor belts. I feel like I'm in the biggest sushi train.
It screens 80% of all mail and freight entering and exiting the country.
Look at it, it's just parcels and parcels and parcels.
Last year alone, over 24 million mail articles were scanned and sniffed by biosecurity officers. 50,000 of those were caught with biosecurity risks inside, including more than 150 native lizards being sent overseas. So how hard is it to find trafficked wildlife amongst all of this?
Okay, that just looks like a series of blurs to me, literally. If you don't know what you're looking at, it is. What are the weaknesses of this system then, Kira?
If there is anything concealed inside items, you're unable to cut through them, you can't rotate them.
So that under a metal plate or something, there could be a contraband item hiding away.
But I'm keen to put my detective skills to the test.
You're going to have some biosecurity risk items that are coming through and you'll have to point them out.
Okay.
So you're going to be looking for things like meat, seafood and plant material.
Okay, that looks like bacon.
Bacon? Okay, I'll give you a hint. It's nothing in that one.
God, you're tricky. Oh, okay, what am I missing? This is hard. It looks a little bit like a tentacle.
Like a tail? No? There's seafood in that one.
Well, I won't be giving up my day job. This is obviously really cool, but really difficult.
Yeah.
So is there a better way?
Yes, we have new technology and I can take you and have a look.
Let's go. Do I get to have a go at that one as well?
To increase the speed and accuracy of their biosecurity scanning, the team here have created a unique solution. combining state-of-the-art 3D X-ray with a custom-built detection algorithm. And wildlife scientist Vanessa Perotta is teaching it how to identify trafficked animals.
All right, what do you got in this esky?
In this esky, I have a variety of deceased species.
Oh my goodness. What is that?
This is a species not native to Australia, a Californian king snake.
Wow.
We have some deceased blue-tongue lizards.
All of these animals died during previous trafficking attempts.
A crocodile.
Yes.
But from tragedy comes hope. These specimens are key to the 3D X-ray trial.
We're going to put them in here, into the luggage.
Okay.
I'm going to be taking these animals, scanning them, and then we're going to be training a computer to look for these in the future. All right, X-rays are on. Let's send it through.
It's a pretty gory suitcase for sure. But this algorithm is learning how to spot lizards and snakes and all sorts of animals. So with this one push, I'm creating an AI memory.
Let's see here, ready? It's going to go through the X-ray right now. And before it arrives there, we're going to see it right there. This is what's so cool about this technology. It happens in real time and we can see the animal in not just 2D anymore, we're going 3D.
Wow, look at its little legs and everything. It's so detailed. You can see like some of the skull morphology.
That's right. 3D, in my opinion, is awesome because 3D allows us to manipulate it in ways that we would have never thought possible.
This gives the team a better chance of detecting animals hidden inside containers or obscured by solid objects.
As Kira's manipulating it, you can see above, around, behind things.
That's got to be amazing for your job, to be able to flip it upside down, essentially, look past an object.
The technology is always learning.
It's hoped that the AI will be able to identify a suspect package on its own. So Vanessa is teaching it what animals look like when they're X-rayed.
It is comprised of different materials, which we're going to train the algorithm to look for. The red here, you can see the skeleton.
Cool.
The meat is a different colour, and essentially this is a great starting point for the algorithm to go, okay, that's meat, and then compare it with a different density.
So the more times you put this lizard and other animals through, the smarter and smarter the machine gets.
That's right. With more data, we can create better algorithms.
So how much more effective is this huge big scanner compared to the smaller 2D ones?
Compared to the 2D, it is 4 times more effective on the 3D.
So that could be 4 times more parcels picked up if they had meat or animals.
Risk. Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But just how smart can this algorithm get, you reckon?
As wildlife smuggling evolves, this technology is also evolving with it. Our technology is going to be keeping up with what people are doing, and that's key for us to keep on top of this at the front line.
Something like 80% of all Australia's flora and fauna is endemic, only found here. And that means it's rare internationally and desired by collectors. But it's people like Kira and algorithms like this that are going to help prevent us losing more of our wildlife in the future.
One way traffickers try to avoid prosecution is to claim that the animals have been legally bred. But now scientists on Gadigal country at Taronga Zoo are trialling a new forensic tool that could revolutionise trafficking detection.
I've come to try and understand how new technology might be able to help unpick where smuggled animals come from. Oh, Bumpy. Oh, so handsome.
In the past, the origin of these shingleback lizards would have been determined by their colour and appearance. But now, their scales can tell a far more accurate story.
What sort of techniques are you using to try and track where Bumpy might have come from?
So we're using a portable X-ray fluorescence device, which is typically used in geology. But we're using it to measure elements that the animals have incorporated through their diet, so what they're eating.
So can you show me how this works then?
I can. Let's scan Bumpy. I will just scan for a minute.
What material on the body is actually being X-rayed?
With shinglebacks, they have keratin in the outer scales, which is really cool because as it grows, it records the diet at the time it grew.
So right now there's little beams that are going down and hitting the lizard, and the elements within the lizard's scales are beaming back information to your computer.
And measuring the concentration of elements in the body. Things like potassium, calcium, zinc, gold. So for example, zinc is reading at 94 parts per million.
And it's these elements in the lizard's scales that will allow Kate to eventually identify the region it has come from.
Okay, so this element signature will be specific to an area of Australia?
Yes. The food that shinglebacks are eating in WA is different to shinglebacks in New South Wales. And once we build up a library of what that looks like, we can then say this animal has come from Western Australia.
This machine effectively tells you the postcode that the shingleback was originally from?
That's exactly it, yes. So he is what he ate.
That's an incredible machine.
It's very handy, and we're done.
Nice work, Bumpy. The traffickers, they're not going to be able to pull the wool over our eyes much longer.
No, definitely not. If we had a seizure and we could identify that those animals had come from a specific part of the country, then even if those animals can't be returned for whatever reason, it means enforcement can potentially focus some attention on that region and maybe track down what's going on there.
It sounds like there's still a way to go, but this is good news for our shinglebacks and other wildlife in Australia.
Yeah, it is. I mean, shinglebacks are the most trafficked animal out of Australia. So in terms of the impact it could have globally, it really is a significant contribution to fighting illegal wildlife trade.
It's individuals like Bumpy that we do this for, that we make these advancements in technology because we want to safeguard him and the others of his species. I mean, how could you not want to protect that?
It's encouraging to see how technology is revolutionising the way we can protect our precious wildlife. But there's still a lot more work to be done. The most important way that we can prevent the further decline of our threatened native animals is by protecting their habitat. But to do that effectively, we need a clearer picture of exactly where they live. And that's a particular challenge for those safeguarding the iconic platypus, probably the most elusive of Australian species. Less than 20 kilometres from the hustle and bustle of the Melbourne CBD lies the Yarra Valley.
It's amazing, really, how close we are to the city.
I know.
The Wurundjeri call it Birrarung, meaning river of mists and shadows. So it's fitting that I'm searching amongst the mist for this notoriously shy creature.
All right, so what am I looking for?
Platypus-shaped rock.
Every single rock looks like a platypus at this point.
No. They're mostly active at night, which obviously makes them very hard to see. But also, they don't make a lot of big movements, so even when they're there, they can be really difficult to spot.
The light glints on something and you think, oh, a platypus.
Yeah.
That duck has given me a heart attack about 5 times. It looks like a platypus.
Yeah. I think you've just discovered why they're so difficult to spot.
So if it's hard to spot them and they've got a reducing habitat, how do we know which bits to protect?
That's the big question, isn't it? And we really need that data to be able to focus our conservation efforts and protect them more effectively.
Well, let's get some data. So we haven't seen any yet today. How would you normally keep track of platypus populations?
Traditionally, we would use live trapping techniques, setting nets in a waterway, checking them all throughout the night, and hopefully catching a few to see how the population's going.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It certainly is.
Is there a new way?
Absolutely. That's why a little toolbox of new technology that we can use.
What's the basic concept of this?
We're playing wildlife detectives. We're doing like a CSI program for platypus. Animals that live in the water are shedding DNA into the environment through skin cells, hair cells.
Effectively, this is a DNA soup.
Yep, and so all of that has genetic material that we can now detect with very high accuracy. That pump is going to suck water through there, through our filter, which is going to capture all our DNA.
So the DNA persists in the water for a little while?
Yeah, so typically it'll take a while to disperse and also break down, anything from a day to a week.
Trying to find this microscopic environmental DNA in thousands of megalitres of river water seems like an impossible task. But this clever technology can confirm the presence of a platypus from a single drop of water.
Typically what we're trying to look for is probably cells or cluster of cells. And then when it goes back into the lab, they then sort of basically break those cells open and extract the DNA from that.
This is definitely a lot easier than the endless nights of trapping.
Absolutely. So I might stop it there.
What's so amazing is that took 5 minutes to take the samples that otherwise might have taken 1 or more trapping nights, like 18 hours or more of work. Incredible.
Absolutely, and this has just completely revolutionised the way that we can look for platypuses. The fact that we can take these water samples at thousands of sites means that we can, understand their populations at a landscape scale. Guys.
Platypus.
See where the stick is out of the water here. It's about another sort of 5 or 10 metres downstream there. And he just dives under this, see him? Maybe it is a rock.
Have we seen a platypus, or is it just all platyp rocks? The reality is this technology is fast-tracking research. It has the potential to bring down the timescale that would have been hours and hours and hours, millions of dollars spent in the field so that we can track down where these vulnerable creatures are. And instead, all we have to do is filter a bit of water.
Using this method to sample all the rivers in the area, Josh has built up a detailed picture of the places platypus still call home.
So basically what we can do with that is map platypus distribution. And you can very clearly see, so all these green dots are where platypus occur and the grey ones are where they're not.
I can see that there's a correlation between the density of human population and the lack of density of platypuses.
Yep.
How do you actually feel about the future of the platypus?
Platypus is probably the most iconic creature on the planet, as far as I'm concerned, and we're lucky enough to have them virtually in our backyard in Melbourne. I want to make sure that they're still here in 100 years and 200 years, and it's very achievable. We need this to be able to go to politicians and say, well, look, we've got the hard data that says there's an issue with our platypus populations, and we know what we need to do to protect them. And then we can really focus our conservation efforts on where they're going to have the biggest impact.
Absolutely.
At least 20% of platypus habitat has been lost in the last 30 years. So these population maps are key to stopping further decline and stabilising population numbers. But for animals on the brink of extinction, protecting their habitat might not be enough. Their last chance at survival could be a frozen zoo or cryobank. A place where genetic material is stored in the hope that the species can be resurrected in the future. I'm here with biologist Nicola Rivers to collect a sample from one of Australia's rarest animals, the mountain pygmy possum.
I don't know that I've seen a patient being brought in a cotton bag before. But it doesn't even look like it's got anything in it.
I've never seen an animal so tiny and adorable.
I'm really surprised at how moved I am to see a mountain pygmy possum here, because there's like only 2,000 left in the wild. It's just mind-blowing that one's actually in front of us. You're collecting DNA, you're putting them into a big freezer essentially.
We don't actually have any genetic samples from this animal, and because they just happen to be undergoing a health check, it's a really good time for us to come in and grab some.
I think Dr. Marissa is just going in with some forceps, so can you describe what she's doing?
She's going to very gently pick off any loose hair off of the possum, and then she's going to pop it into a cryo vial.
It's pretty cool that you can use hair. It's way less invasive than taking a blood sample from a sensitive creature. What sort of genetics is on a bit of hair?
It's a really small amount of DNA, but given how gene technology is working, we don't know what we'll be able to do with that in the future.
It's so vulnerable there on the table, it really makes my heart squeeze. The thing is though, this one individual could be key to resurrecting the species in the future. Hello. What have you got for us?
I have a sample from our beautiful little mountain pygmy possum. She's just having some yummy food to get her energy back up. A nectar treat, which is a favourite.
It's a tiny plastic container, but inside is genetic gold. It's a sample of mountain pygmy possum DNA. All right, so what happens now?
So we're going to head straight back to the lab to get this sample into liquid nitrogen.
So is time critical?
We do want to get there as soon as possible. We want to conserve the genetics in this sample as best as we can, and as long as it's sitting at room temperature, there is a chance the DNA could degrade over time. So yes, we want to get back as soon as we can.
Right, so it's like, to the freezers, Batman!
Yes, exactly.
We're taking the sample to a secret location in Melbourne, where they store genetic material from hundreds of native, rare and exotic species.
So this is a biobanking facility where our large tanks full of liquid nitrogen live.
The samples are kept at minus 196 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, all cellular processes are paused, preventing degradation and preserving the tissue for the future.
So as liquid nitrogen turns to gas, it produces this lovely white mist.
Does that ever get old?
No, it's pretty fun to play with. So I'm going to grab out our rack now.
This is insane. These are literally like the library shelves of DNA, aren't they? Like, this one says frozen zoo. And each of these vials a different genetic sample of an endangered or close to endangered creature.
We're going to pop our pygmy possum sample into this liquid nitrogen tank, and if we ever need to use it, we can pull it back out again.
And we can sort of revive the species potentially from there.
Potentially, yes.
Freezing genetic material from our most precious animals is an investment in the future of our ecosystem. But these samples aren't a get-out-of-jail-free card. They're costly to maintain, and technology can't yet bring back animals from extinction.
Bringing things back from the dead, though, is there a bit of complicated ethics around that?
Yeah, it's a tricky thing to do, and obviously we also need to ask whether we want to be doing it as well.
Absolutely. In these vials is the DNA, probably of the rarest things in Australia. The thing is, in the future, we may be able to revive species from this. The best way of cleaning up spilt milk, though, is to never spill the milk at all. All right, see you, pygmy possum. Hope we never have to meet again. To close it up?
Yeah, there we go.
It's much better than my fridge at home.
As the world faces its next mass extinction event, the speed at which we need to monitor and protect the health of our environment is increasingly urgent. But I'm hopeful that the exciting new ways technology is being used by conservationists across the country will help us safeguard Australia's extraordinary biodiversity before it's too late.